Hi, America.
Welcome to Angel in the Wiz.
Welcome to another
Political Rant Part 2.
Two things I want to say. I want to plug Howard's movie again because he was my best friend and he's still a nice friend. And he doesn't know this, but when he was still in Glen Cove and I was in the city doing TV, I had a show. The original show was called Off to See the Wizard. And he was walking down Crescent Beach Road one day and I came up and I hadn't seen him in a while. And I said something to him and he said something to me along the lines of, who wouldn't be watching Off to See the Wizard? You know, and my feet kind of like left the ground, you know. That was the sweetest thing. It was just nice to think that he knew that. So anyway, Jake Squared is his film. I want to encourage you to go to Angel in the Wiz on YouTube and go to the little, little information box. I have a link there that you can go link to get his to see his show and stuff like that. And I also want to plug Day by Day, a cartoon strip, priceless, daybyday.com. And I have to say one other thing from last week. Senator Elbert Guillory, Guillory, has a website, freeatlastpack.com. freeatlastpack.com. Okay, and I'll write that one down too, because that's kind of important. Now, before we get off, oh yes, and again, our special hello to the new leader of the Republican Party, Ryan Press. Okay, now, well, enough of that. Okay, so now,
I know you said last week that you had some Common Core questions.
Let's start with that today. Okay, we'll get back to the GOP. You're not off the hook, okay? And you have no excuse, and it's just despicable. You know what I mean? Look what she said. She, okay? The young liberal, the old conservative, and she's telling you the same thing. Why should I believe in you? Why should I vote for you? Give me a reason. Educate me. Talk to me. You must think. Democrats, independents, Republicans. Or, how about this? A novel concept. Americans. All of them. You don't care what party they are. Now, Common Core. Now, I really heard this horrible thing. You know, I've been down on Common Core, and we talked about it, and you've been asking me for illustrations of why you're down there. So let's start with this first one. You're a math teacher.
Uh-huh.
Well, one of the illustrations in Common Core is that 3 times 4 can be 11. I swear to you, as God is my witness, they would do it. They have a presentation on video. Why is 3 times 4 can be acceptable? The answer is 11. If he or she, if the child can explain to us how he came to that number, just because he got the number wrong, that's okay, as long as we can understand the process that he used to get there. And I am telling you, if we send our kids out into the world with that kind of premise, they are beaten. 3 times 4 is 12. And if they say 3 times 4 is 11, and they can explain to you how well they got there, you've got to start with wrong. I understand what you're saying, but the answer is wrong. It's not acceptable to give me 2 times 6 is 12. It's never not 12. And just because, listen, I watched Abbott and Costello go 9 times 28 was 115, or something like that. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, okay? Sure, there's always a motive. You can play with numbers, you can manipulate numbers any way you want, but numbers, of all things, and you know this as a math teacher, there are constants in life. I'm telling you, the Democrats are afraid of constant. They are afraid of black and white. They are afraid of certain things. You know why? Because they're liberal. You know, everything is gray. You know, math ain't gray. Math is cut and dried. I have 5 fingers on this hand, 5 fingers on this hand. They're always going to be 10 fingers. They ain't ever going to be maybe 9, maybe 11. I could use my toe. No. Okay? Democrats are afraid of constants because they see that as judgments as opposed to realities. Okay? We have goals in life. Okay? We don't always reach all of those goals. Okay? Martin Luther King did not champion equal outcome. He championed equal opportunity. He wanted everybody to start from the same place. They finish where they finish. We got these hucksters, Sharpton and Jesse Jackson,
Oh, those guys are hot.
And the others,
Nobody really likes them anyway.
they're out there saying, we should have equal outcome. Nonsense. I listened to Charlie Rangel say college should be free. Why? Why should college be free for everybody? Why shouldn't people pay to go to college? I blame the colleges for the amount of money that they charge and for the money that they pay for the money that they charge. And if they're so bloody worried about their money, well, maybe they should cut back on sports. You know what? People don't go to college to play football, but they do, don't they? Okay? That's the problem. Are we starting to see a problem here? What's going on? Because the kids are more worried about going to school for sports than for learning. And that's why the Asians and all these other people are beating our butts every place, because they don't go for lacrosse. They go for geometry, trigonometry, and science and math. And you know, I mean, we are so upside down.
Do you want me to answer your question?
Yes, because then I have a really, really depressing thing.
The Common Core standards for math are twofold.
Mm-hmm.
There are there's a part of the standards are factual. At the end, students will be able to, you know, multiply single digits with accuracy. Then there's this.
Not if they get 11 from 3 times 4.
I'm not finished.
Okay.
There's the second part, which is students will be able to communicate their process.
Right.
Because what we're finding as math teachers is not only that students are, first of all, barely memorizing basic number facts. They have no idea about number concept. They don't even know what the concept of multiplication means. You know, 3 times 4 means you're adding 3 to itself 4 times, or you're adding 4 to itself 3 times.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're not getting that. They're missing out on some key concepts. They're not able to, they're not even able to explain mathematical thinking.
Then I say teach them the concepts, but don't delude them into thinking that there's a right answer that's wrong.
So, well, what we're, on a standardized test like that, they never see correct answers. They'll never get, here's the difference. I give a test in my classroom,
Mm-hmm.
and I say, you need to explain, you know, here's a question. Multiply 3 times 4,
Mm-hmm.
and is like part 1. Part
Mm-hmm.
2 of that question is explain how you got your answer.
Right.
Okay? Part 1 is worth 2 points.
Right.
You either get it right or you're wrong.
Right.
Part 2 is going to be worth more, 5 points, because you now have to explain.
Right.
So but then in the classroom, the students get those tests back.
Right.
On the Common Core standardized tests,
Mm-hmm.
similar to the ACT and the SAT, you take the test.
Right.
You don't know what you got right or wrong.
Right.
You just get a score back. So
Well, I don't know about the testing at all. All I know is about this.
The questions that they're showing now are types of questions that would be on tests. They are not instructing teachers to accept 11. Now, on that question, when they give standardized test questions, each question assesses a standard, which is why it's called standardized test. So maybe on that particular question, the standard they're assessing is not the math fact.
Mm-hmm.
Because that would be a simple multiple choice question. 3 times 4 is, 9, 10, 11, or 12. Pick one. If they're asking them to explain, they want to assess the student's ability to reason out an answer.
Mm-hmm.
So, do I agree that they should get points if they answer 11? They shouldn't. But if the standard they're assessing is not whether they can accurately multiply, but whether they can reason out their answer,
Right.
and the reasoning has some sort of logic
Right.
that I can follow as a
Right.
grader, then
Right.
I'm going to have to give them points for that, just like I would in the classroom.
Yeah, but if they get
When
to
I
the
say-
wrong answer, their reasoning is wrong.
Yes and no.
No, there is no yes or no. This is a hard fact. If I can explain to you, watch Abbott and Costello. I'm telling you, they can take 11 and get 22. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Okay, if the reasoning is wrong, and what I would say to you, you should teach the reasoning separate from the numbers. Because what you're doing is
Yes
you're
and
setting up a
you
false
can't always-
premise.
You can't always teach reasoning.
No, but you can teach
you-
fundamentals.
you do your
this
best
is
to
what
teach
this
the
means.
reasoning. You do your best to
Multiplication
make the connection.
means
But
this.
the students have to process that.
Yeah, Yeah,
So,
but if they process it wrong, they shouldn't get. If they process it and get the wrong answer, then their processing is wrong. It's flawed.
and the other thing I'm going to point out is that I'm sure that that's a very basic question that would be asked on a 3rd grade or 4th grade test.
I don't know. I was stunned to see it.
A high school student is not going to get a 3 times 4 equal,
Yeah, but I'm saying if you're telling somebody in the earlier grades that coming up with the wrong answer a good way.
No, but the teachers would never allow them to earn credit if they say 3 times 4 is 12. Like here's
You mean
what
11?
Whatever.
Right.
So like I said, if I'm giving a test, and I did this in high school, when I taught geometry primarily.
Okay.
Geometry is a hard concept.
You're not kidding.
So there's and there was always like 2 folds to the question.
Right.
So the students would have to do 2 parts, or even 3. They'd have to take the shape and identify parts of the shape, and then they were given expressions, so like 3x equals 4, or 3x minus 4, and 2x plus 8,
Right.
or whatever. And then they would have to solve for x using
Right.
algebra.
Right.
And then they would have to explain to me what they did exactly.
Right.
So it's sometimes kids got the wrong answer.
Right.
I understand that, and I would, if they showed their work, I would give them partial credit.
Right.
Because you made your best attempt, and if you explained to me your reasoning behind doing what you did,
Right.
which might have altered from what I had showed you, but I can't tell you this is the only way that you can solve this problem. Because that limits students' creativity and thinking. They now don't want to think anymore. They want you to tell them. Because that's what was happening for a while. Now we have a generation of non-thinkers. You tell me how to do it, I follow the steps. They can't do anything without being told how to do it.
Right.
Not even just in math. That's even outside of the math room. That's in general everywhere.
But
So-
didn't we used to train people how to do things? What's wrong with teaching people how to do things? You're not saying, I mean, that doesn't stop people from thinking. What I blame for stopping and thinking is the other areas in the school. In math, we shouldn't be making allowances in the real world of black and white. 2 and 2 is 4. 2 and 2 is never anything but 4. That is a hard and fast fact. Okay? That's not the room we should be teaching them to think in. We should be teaching them to think in government. We should be teaching them to think in economics. We should be teaching them to think in English and literature. What we're doing is we're crossing over these things, and we're doing the wrong thing. We're trying to do a good thing in the wrong place.
I would tell my geometry students, I would say, my ultimate goal is to create logical thinkers. Ultimately. And I'm going to use the curriculum of this classroom to teach you to think logically.
Right, but if they don't get the right answer, they haven't thought logically. They've made a mistake someplace, and that's what needs to be pointed out to them.
But mistakes can be as simple as a slight miscalculation, and I know.
But it's a mistake.
I know that as a teacher,
right.
I've done that. I'd be in the middle of teaching a class, there are problems.
Well, you all do.
I'm in the right logical process.
You know what?
I make a miscalculation, and I'm like, oh,
you know what?
crap. Let me
It's
go
a
back and do
mistake
that.
for you. It's a mistake for me,
Yeah.
and it's a mistake for them. And it's never not a mistake. It's like everybody wins, nobody loses, everybody gets a trophy. What are we doing? We're robbing kids of the initiative to want to win. Now, let me go to this other thing in Common Core. See what you say about this.
Okay, now I
Listen,
only am familiar with the Math Common Core, so.
Okay,
this
well,
is
believe me,
outside
I
of
was
math.
not familiar with this at all. This blew me
Okay.
away. There's a new book that's coming out, and it's going to be for the higher grades. I forget what it's called, the Blue Vase or something like that. And it is for the higher levels, I guess like 11th and 12th grades. And it presents rape, incest, and pedophilia in a sympathetic way from the viewer of the person that does it. Now, I'm sorry, but I can't imagine. No, it's a book that they are giving to 11th and 12th grade students, and it's. I mean, I don't know what the.
There's questions before you start going to judgment. You have to ask who is the author, who authored the book.
Right.
Because there's a book called Their Eyes Were Watching God.
Right.
It's by Zora Neale Hurston.
Right.
Beautiful book.
Right.
Talks about rape. Talks
Right.
about incest.
Right.
You know.
Right.
It's part of the novel.
Yeah, I understand
So,
that.
is it a novel or is this a factual book? Who authored it? At what purpose did someone say
I
that this
don't-
is going into the classroom? Is this...
Well,
is this
what
a
I'm
book
telling you,
that
I'm telling you
they're
that this is a
saying
book, is a part of the curriculum that they're giving to 11th and 12th
a
graders.
part of the curriculum
and
in
it,
what
and
state
it,
and
I don't
who
know.
like, you can't just...
I don't know. All I'm telling you, I'm just reporting it, okay, as a fact.
But I
And
don't
with
think
all
that
the
your
caveat-
reporting's
No,
even correct, because...
But I'm telling you what they have announced, okay?
Who's
that
they?
I forget exactly where I read it. Listen, and then you can pigeonhole me and all that you want on this. Trust me. All I'm trying to say is this: presenting a book that suggests that rape, pedophilia, and incest in a positive light. I don't.
disagree.
That cannot be tolerated. There
don't-
is no. Like, how can you present that in a sympathetic way?
I don't like the idea of the topics of the book, but here's my issue as an educator, and I'm a big person on there should be no such thing as banned books. So if it's a novel, and if it's something that a school board says, yes, we say this book can be taught, because here's what happens. Sometimes teachers say, I want to teach this book. And if could be some potential controversy, there's a hierarchy. It has to go to the department chair,
Right,
takes it
right.
to the principal, who goes to the school board.
Sure.
And then the school board says,
Yes or no.
you can put this into your curriculum.
Right.
So then, and that teacher then says, okay, and then, it's part of a novel unit. You're not looking, that would be no different than Huckleberry Finn. That would be no different than The Color Purple. That would be no different than Maya Angelou's book.
But wouldn't you say that some books are more
To
appropriate
Kill a Mockingbird.
in college than they are in high school?
I'm sure there are.
Because
but
the problem
it's up to
is,
the
it
teacher's
depends.
discretion.
It depends
If it's
on
an
what
AP,
they.
If it's an AP class, if it's an advanced placement class, which they're going to earn college credit if they
Right.
pass the test,
Right.
then by all means.
Well,
it's
I
a
have to
literature
say,
class.
I don't have those answers.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's what I mean. Like, I disagree
All I know
with
is
the
that-
topic of it, but there has to
Yeah,
be
in the
more.
presentation, but you don't
But
know.
there has to be more information on this.
Is we don't know how it's also being packaged by the person that's giving it to them.
Right.
What kind
will
of caveats
Yeah, I will tell you
are
that
the teachers
because
giving?
you made it sound like this was the federal government. The federal government does not have that, does not have the authority of saying this or that within.
All I know is it's a part of
literature.
Common Core, and one of the things that Common Core are trying to do is
I doubt that it's. There might be.
whatever the word is.
Yeah,
inject
I
itself
would have
into
to-
every state.
There would have to be the full. I'd have to see the full story.
Okay, and
of everything. Do you know what I mean?
I cop a plea, and I
Yeah.
say I don't have the full story. Okay, all I know is that it was raised in such a way that it sent flags up to me, that this is,
Yeah.
because you see, I wouldn't be surprised if we had people that promoted that kind of stuff.
I wouldn't be surprised.
I mean-
There are some crazies. There was a teacher that I used to work with who was fired because he was having inappropriate relations with a student. So I mean, there's a lot of weird people out, and they're not out there, and they're not just teachers. They're like everywhere. So I wouldn't doubt that there was someone who packaged it in a funny way, but the way that you had said it, and I don't want you to feel like I'm attacking you, but the way you had said it was that it was like
go
the
attack
federal
away
government.
because you're right. I should have
So-
had better notes.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure that I know all that stuff, but I didn't write it down.
Right.
And
And
as you can tell, even if I wrote it down, it'd be tough. I could read it. Okay.
But I'm just a big, and that's just my personal thing with banned books.
But you're.
I don't-
No, I'm not up to ban. I'm not into banning books. Listen, I
banning
have a
books-
problem with school uniforms, because I think that school uniform. I understand the argument that if you have uniforms, then there's no competition between the kids. Everybody looks the same. La da da. Now, to
Are you
me,
kidding me? You want to know why I like school uniforms?
Why?
Lack of gang influence.
Okay, fine. For whatever, fine.
Yeah.
I mean, and I understand that. But from my point of view, I've always been an individualist. And I don't want to be I don't want somebody telling me what to wear to school. I have a problem with that. You know what I mean? Although I equally understand the good things that come from it. But I think that's suppressive. You talk about suppressing creativity. Well, we all learned to walk in a line. That's what Obama's trying to do with Obamacare. He's trying to get us to all walk in a line, be the same way, la-di-da. And at my age, I got to care about Obamacare. You're young. You're not going to be told, take a pill. I'm going to be told, take a pill and die. Because we need this bed for somebody younger. And I don't need to hear that. I mean, that's absolute.
That is for me.
Well, no, but I mean, but you're.
That was my joke.
Oh, okay. Buzzy Linhart, a friend of mine, Buzzy Linhart, who wrote the song Friends. You got to have friends. He wrote it with somebody, I don't remember who it was. But Buzzy Linhart told me a story one time on TV. And he said, my dad told me this was bad. I think we talked about this. I'm just going to do it really quickly, okay? I don't know if he's talking about pot or whatever it was. But the point that I'm trying to make is, you've got to be careful what information you give kids. Because what Buzzy said was, my dad told me that this was bad, I found out that it wasn't, so I now had to check everything he said that was bad for myself. You've got to be really, really careful. And Ryan Press, Mr. Press, what I want to say to you, this is very, very, very important. We started this last week, and I want to try and end on this, because the fact of the matter is, you need to go out into America. Not into the safe America where you know you are, but into the rest of America. You cannot be afraid of blacks and Hispanics. They are just people. They want the same things. They've been betrayed by the Democrats for 50 years. They're being betrayed by Obama. These folks have no idea. They think because they're getting handouts that it's cool, okay? There's nothing cool about what Obama's doing to these people. He is enslaving them. He is stealing their will from them. He is making them slaves to the government. Slaves to the government. And if you're not out there explaining that to them in a way that they can understand, if you are not recruiting people that black people and Hispanic people and Asian people have faith in and trust in, let me tell you something. There's a tremendous amount of blacks, Hispanics, and Asians who are Republicans, who are Americans, who love America, who care about America. You should be recruiting them to go into their communities and tell the truth. And until you do that, you have missed the boat. Now, I have to be careful. We got, what week time? We have to get out. I have to look at, we got to get out of 25-23. I said this a couple weeks ago. I'm going to say it again. This is specifically to you, Ryan. You're the one that's out there, and you're the head of this RNC, and you've got all this money. You do all this stuff. I am telling you, pick the 12 major cities in America. Fill up a plane from the inner city. From each of those, I don't care how you do it. Do it as a lottery, do it any way you want. I want you to fill up a plane from each of those 12 cities, and I want you to send those people to Kenya or Zimbabwe or any place they can see what real poverty is. And you will bring back those 300 or 400 people in each of those planes, and you will have the strongest ambassadors for the things that you believe in than you could ever hope to have. You could never get more than you could get from doing that. Simple thing. 12 planes, 12 cities, 15 cities, 20 cities. You got the money. You got all this money to do with. You're spending your money the wrong way. You're not touching real people. If you want to save the world, if you want to touch the world, you've got to deal with the world. You can't sit up in your ivory towers and listen to media consultants that don't know what the hell is going on. They're making commercials. They're sitting in edit bays, and they have no idea what's going on the street. When you got people walking around getting fine, and how do you feel about this, and who is this guy, and who is that guy, and half of these people give you answers that are ridiculous. They don't even know who these people are. I don't know, who's Joe Biden? Oh, he rides a horse in the Kentucky Derby. Okay, that's the kind of answers you're getting. You got to accept some responsibility for getting the job done. You have to educate the people. You have to look at Democrats, Independents, and Republicans. Forget this Republicans only point of view. And if you want people to stand with you, you got to stand for something. And you got to get rid of Obamacare. And I'm running out of time, but I'm just telling you, the people that are trying to defund Obamacare are doing the right thing. And you don't want to hear that because you're worried that, oh, if we shut down... You're not shutting down the government. You're passing the law without Obamacare. And give it to Harry Reid. And let him do whatever he does with it. And if he just puts Obamacare in and sends it back, then you take Obamacare out and send it back to him. And you can go back and forth as long as you want. And if old Mr. Obama wants to shut down the government to make his point, then you let him do it. Okay, because the last time you shut the government down, you did it because you believed in something, and you gained seats in the Senate, and you held the House. You weren't crucified. You were crucified in the papers. Who cares? Nobody pays any attention. The New York Times is a joke. They know it. You know it. The Washington, all of these big papers, they're dinosaurs. They're dinosaurs. Drudge has more impact on America than the New York Times. I'm just telling you.
We have to go.
We have to go.
Buy America, do something good every day, and
That's right.
volunteer at your local animal shelter.
Indeed.